Yo te yo te ayo, ayo, yo te ayo, ayo, yo te ayo, ayo, yo te ayo. Clever friendship song to ease the room so we don't get any bad hats. May this knowledge find those seeking and be protected from onlookers of ill will. May we purify the poisons in the well. Happy full moon, and properly, rightly so, in Sagittarius. Kalinata, Veniste. In Sag, baby, and properly, no debate here. Although sometimes I do, and I will when it's right. Mercury and Jupiter are very much in collaboration in Cancer, which is obviously leading the conversation in more ways than one. But why? And I think that is something to be very curious of, as well as its relationship to Saturn, because it also will be a key player in some shit. But it's leading the conversation, and I think it absolutely can be a strong one, a powerful one, a glorious calling. But it is also just front and center of the conversation in some ways, um, because of the ways that we also lead with the body, lead out of instinct. I, especially as an indigenous person, I do not vibe with the new age primal stuff, because I find it very supremacist as far as like human and animal, and that's very disuniting and in disregard of life source of all things. And I find it negates just how complex and intellectual the nervous systems of animism or animal or primal quality can be, in the same ways that racism and subjugation have applied themselves to other tropes or behaviors or ideologies. So let's not get caught up in that, which is very much, I think, why this is also leading the conversation. Let's not get caught up in the body. Let's not get caught up in logic as it leads spirit away from the self. This is absolutely also why I felt so called to write what I've written and do what I've been doing, to help lead back to the self, because I had this feeling that we would be drawn farther away from it, farther from center, really. It is, in fact, a grand escape or a great arrival. And that is all in your tone, truly. And perhaps you've noticed that in the tone that others have taken with you. Um, Neptune and Saturn are also collaborating, with Ceres and Eris, actually, which I think is particularly important because it does tie to death in a roundabout way. Not directly, exactly, but it is battle, it is grief, it is revenge. And ultimately, that is a journey of death, a journey towards death. A living of it, even living for it, even, um, which is a much darker trap than the idea of death being a unifying or liberating thing. Um, it's a very finite idea, and so that is the opposite of expansion. And so it can feel very stagnant, and I think that's very much the Saturn discomfort, is the ways in which we perhaps feel stagnant, and perhaps feel like we're not resting well or not recovering, or absolutely dealing with subconscious and underneath the surface in that way. Um, we are pushing forward, but with what? What is forgotten? What is neglected? What has sank to the bottom of your oceans, because the water is your emotions. Um, when you disturb the water, the muck comes to the surface so we can see. But when you still the water, what did I say to Bunny the other day? When you steal the water, it gets very clear. Um, things begin to get very clear. It becomes very reflective, and it becomes something that also plays with the light, with the environment, with source, with life. When the fish come to rise, um, what is felt so much that it is real, that is probably a closer or a more introspective or a more investigative way of looking at life rather than the ways that we're perhaps defining it. Um, ask people if they feel alive, and sometimes the ones that have all of the things that we're told to strive for are actually the ones that feel most stagnant, most uh, lacking in life source or source energy or self, really. um I've absolutely interacted with that kind of energy. What is felt so much it's real, it becomes your sensory reality. It can be heaven, or it can be hell. um in the mind, really. Your mind rules your body in that way, or influences, not rules. It is part of the equation. They directly influence each other, but no kings here, eh? And that's also just a very indigenous concept at heart. Tanto is the mind, kato is the soil. The ways in which your mind is fertile soil for thought or creativity or revenge. Um, Ultimately, I think that is the ways in which we lean toward escape or lean toward liberation. We lean toward escape as a collective when we need liberation, and we make excuses for ourselves all along the way. Everyone wants the good ancestors and to purge the bad ones, as if that isn't a trap in and of itself. That is also directly a reflection of how you abandon yourself. I know, hard to hear, right? Uh, all of this energy is also moving quickly toward Aries, and this is where hauntings are not banished by good thoughts alone, especially because Chiron is there. That is the things that haunt our bones that start to ache because we've been ignoring them, or because we have allowed it to take control, given it authority to dominate the body, the land body. Um, Jupiter and Mercury and their positioning, I think, is an exalting opportunity. Absolutely. Um, to take what you remember, and again, informed by Saturn, to take what you remember and what you know and move onward. I think, again, the pain in the soil is also in our bones, and your rage is the perfect chance for embodiment of unsettled spirits. Um, that's also why there's so much talk of new technology and mind reading technology, and being able to collect our thoughts or emotions on the ether and technology and patents, because that same thing is in fact true. The farther we are away from ourselves, the more easily extractable information and energy is. This is also why uh, people often employing narcissistic traits or tactics to control a narrative or situation in a relationship. That's also how they navigate. In cults, even, they pull you away from yourself so that you lose sight of ability to connect dots or corroborate information. So you're isolated in that information. Oftentimes we do it to ourselves. In the most micro way we do it to ourselves, simply in disbelief, simply in, well, that can't be true because there's not enough evidence. Well, that can't be. The government would never. And now we're all getting to see just how true that possibility is. Um, your rage is the perfect chance for embodiment of unsettled spirits. Your mind, unsettled and distant from yourself, is the perfect opportunity to extract, again, information or energy. And this could be an opportunity for a very powerful thing or moment, but it can also be entirely undoing. And so I think that shit's about to get very real. Whether you believe it or not, this is also why people are tripping so hard. This is why things look the way that they do around us. Um, what ignorance, really, um, of the world around us, but also of the self. Funny how those things influence each other so readily. But so we pull some cards. We see what the moon would like us to see, uh, and how we can utilize that and move with it. Again, going back to souls and ancestors, like we honor our ancestors by remembering, yes, but we also honor our ancestors by carrying forward. And that goes for the good ones and the bad ones. They cannot rest until we ourselves can heal. And sometimes that's not necessarily going back to, sometimes that's healing now so that moving forward continues the healing cycle rather than the rage cycle, rather than the hurt cycle. This is also why beyond shelved magical laws, um, hexing and cursing and what have you was a product of survival and of colonization. But we can put that to bed because colonization itself isn't going to help us fight colonization. Utilizing the same tactics isn't going to help us fight them. It's not a break the system from the inside out thing. Um, it's not break the system by becoming it. It's deeper than that. It synthesizes much more than that. But okay, this is already giving me a lot, so I'm gonna just breathe and pull because there's a lot sticking together. Much like there are cards in between us, and you are hanging out with me in my clever little, I don't know, section of life. We'll take 3 deep breaths together. And much like I said, with bringing yourself back to center, I absolutely think that comes with breathing through the nostrils. And I think it makes a key point difference in your ability to sort of feel your energy actually take in, or take over, or, filter through the body. It becomes a very visceral experience when you pay attention to those things. Conversely, because we all breathe out of our mouths more readily, and more automatically, that is in fact a releasing of energy, oftentimes while not taking in too much. And this is where we get a high intake of carbon monoxide and faintedness, and what traditional healers would define as too much spirit or too little spirit in the body. So let's breathe through our nose and be readily available and aware for what is to come. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Wow. My left hand hurts. It hurts very much, like ring finger, pinky finger. Um, anything past spirit. which 100% tells me like a giving up on spirit from heartbreak and silencing, which is very much something I've heard from spirits too. We really are not that different after all. Um, we we do move forward very much from heartbreak, and unfortunately, it does silence our truth. That can silence the nervous system. That can silence your own need for justice, silence your own want for understanding or for compassion. Um, we cannot wait around for somebody else to bandage our heart. So this is very much a like battlefield medic moment of the will to make the hard decision to heal yourself um before it spreads. I hope that makes sense to somebody. Oh, oh. Before it spreads, you know what else spreads? Laughter. You know what else is very healing? Laughter. You know what else is always very centering? Laughter. I often say when you feel like there is no hope, um, go around somewhere where there's laughing children. Go to your family's house where you know there's going to be a laughing baby or something, because it does pull you out of it. Or even pets that make us laugh does pull you out of it. That's the sensation with cute cat videos. But find it in real life, not on a screen. Find it in something you can feel, not something you can long for. Find it in something that you can find, not have, because that's what gets us tripped up into like buying more, or feeling the need to do more, or seek validation more, or seek more information when we have enough to corroborate what we know. When we have enough to corroborate what the heck is going on. Which is also very true in a political sense and in the world. If you are looking at social media, which most people are, and the exacerbated responses and very despicable language, and I just it blows my mind that it's so over their heads, and it's also documented by other fascists that a tactic of them is to call morally inept so as to distract from their own ineptitude. And I learned this at my last Muggle job. The person who points and calls you a liar is often the one trying to hide their own untruth. Um, and it's something that fascists have used. It's a tactic as old as war itself. And so be very keen and aware of how it is you build your truths and how it is that they spread. This is very much not a validating circle, but a welcoming circle. Too often do we also equate community with just people that agree with you and that are afraid of having hard conversations, or that just want to be around people that agree with them only, and not actually be creative on the perspectives that are capable of it. This isn't just like minds. This is an ability to bridge the gap, and that will come in many forms. That will come in many many forms, but that also very much exists in the self. How do we bridge the gap from the person that we are when our heart is broken versus the person that we know we could have been or want to be, with a whole heart that has never been jaded? And it's not to say we need to take those things back, but you are love itself. Our heart is whole as it is. Nobody has taken a piece of that. We have just hidden it because it hurts too much to acknowledge for some reason or another. um and I get that, I feel that. Oh boy, do I. And rage used to consume my heart as well, especially with like a like immediate family kind of things. Um, and I think not necessarily even in like forgiving and forgetting, but understanding that that hurt begets hurt begets hurt, and then you get fed up, and so you change the cycle rather than wallow in its misery. Um, let's see. Jack of hearts, four of hearts, four of clubs, king of clubs, four of clubs, king of clubs. Oh, that's so interesting and also very obvious. We're really just we're creating reality again, creating reality with our sensory input. We're creating truth based off of experience. We're creating, and this is more of this experience over education, experience over systemic education system. Let's be very specific, because knowledge is power, yes, but so is intuitive knowing. So is a passionate calling. These things inform each other, just like your brain cannot function. It has two lobes, and it needs the bridge in between in order to move about in a productive manner. Um, mm, King of Fire. King of Fire, Circle of Fire. Okay. We can, and that's, oh God, again, another war tactic. You can circle the village in fire and close them, burn it to the ground. Or you can uh, create a circle of conjuring, of protection. This is a portal. You can do anything you want with a portal. Portals aren't good or bad. They are what you make of them, just like a mirror. It is about what your mind conditions you to see, not just what is there. Which is so funny too, because like even after like new piercings, your brain takes in so much information. It doesn't necessarily discard all of it, but it doesn't prioritize a large percentage of it. And so when something changes, one thing is out of place or irregular to what it has been. The brain very much uh, takes serious note of that, and it can feel like things are off when it's just that change is occurring. Um and 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 it's not that we deflect those things. It's, you know, you take a breath and you understand the progress of this change and understand where what the intention was behind it, and have faith that that will lead it. um this king of fire is very much capable of burning it to the ground or building something entirely new. The body will lead you in those ways. Is the heart like poisoned? Is the body poisoned? Is the ego poisoned? um and that's not to say that that is, you know, inherently like write you off good or bad. That is to say, um are we open to accountability, to acknowledgement? Are we open to seeing that, to feeling that, to healing that? And again, in spiritual circles, as much as people may be like woo wooing about it, um, 9 times out of 10, they are not open to that, because they're only open to that which validates their ego and their experience. And then ego is not a bad thing. It got you here for a reason, but it's also a very fragile thing. Again, you can burn it to the ground or you can build something new. Your ego is very fragile. It need not be blown up to a degree that you cannot that you don't have the capacity for. And oftentimes that's what happens. It's like supercharged, and it exceeds the body, it exceeds the mind, and that becomes very hard to keep up with. But they say the same things about depression. Really, is, you know, all of these things sort of uh, move faster than the present mind, and so it gets fed up and disinterested in maintaining that speed or maintaining that toe or that tone or maintaining that direction. Um, It's not something wrong with you. It's something wrong with the way we're navigating at the time, or the way we're being led at the time. And the King of Wands is not, ought not be led by anything but their passion. However, I think our passions even are led by our grief, are led by our heart, are led by our revenge, are led by our brokenheartedness. Which even in that semantically, it's a broken aspect of the whole, and it's in fact not you because of that. Because if you come back to center, you are in fact, again, love. You have the capacity to heal those things. You have the energy storage there, the energy source there. um Gosh, what a deep, dark disunite. Even these colors are very deep and hidden and darkly. What would we make? What would we make of a night owl that isn't afraid to stare at the sun? Is that too much change for you? Is that too much change for you? Yeah, I feel like this King of Wands needs to create a circle of, that's funny. Create a circle not around the city to burn it down, but create a circle of exchange of ideas, of exchange of energy, of exchange of, this is so fucking funny. Um there are a lot of major highways in the United States that were used, or like major roads that were used, but that were paved over because they were originally used as what they call historically as trade routes, as indigenous trade routes. Um, Oftentimes, those were also roads that were used to force these people into exile. But what a clever thing with semantics! Um, Indigenous texts will call them kin routes, we'll call them kinship routes, we'll call them friendship routes, is the ways in which we facilitated exchange of information, exchange of resources, exchange of values. And even in the ways that our waterways work today, we siphon. Um, it's all so connected. Um, and so channel that and allow that charge to fill your relationships so that you can exchange ideas and both question and qualify and validate experiences so that we can all investigate and grow together, um, rather than just shout at each other or just echo each other, or just like hype each other, um, and in the most lighthearted sense, find people that you can laugh with and laugh with and move in a positive direction with, in a becoming direction. Positive is weird. In a becoming direction. Sometimes though we may have the best ideas at heart, um, our rage still leads us, or our anger still leads us, our disgust, our distaste, our distrust still leads us. How on earth do we expect distrust to lead us to trust? How do how do we expect rage to lead us to peace? How do we expect pain to lead us to healing? How do we expect uh, any of these things to create fertile grounds for its combatant, I suppose? And again, semantics, like saying pain is so funny because what is pain? What is pain? Because the relief does come from some interesting places if we are willing enough to explore beneath the surface. Oh yeah, I guess I don't need that deck. I need this deck. I'm just a fidgeter. Okay, we'll pull some tradish because I know I've been real keen on the cartomancy. We'll pull some traditional decks. Hello, hi, how are you? Thank you for hanging out. Oh man, maybe that's why I've been using numbers. There's just so much in there. Okay. All right. I'm very much of the belief that numbers and playing cards are time, and tarot is space, and that's why I read them both together often. Um, Space has been a lot, so um, so numbers is very helpful to sort of bring that into more discernible pieces. I can feel this in my shoulders, in my fucking heart, in my spine. My elbows hurt. Like, it's interesting. It's not completely unbeknownst to me. If you go to historical sites in the US that were from colonizers, the same may occur, can occur. I went to some old courthouse and they had tiles from the original flooring and it hurt my bones so bad. The walls in there feel much like my shoulders and my elbows do now. But let's see what space has to say. Hmm. Hmm. Three of Wands, Knight of Swords, Nine of Cups. This Knight of Swords, I think, no longer needs to, not no longer, we always learn, right? But it's not that you need more information to know who you are. You need to listen to yourself more. You don't need like another certification or another degree. You need to feel the world around you. Like I see so much that people are like, "Oh, I haven't practiced Reiki. I'm forgetting it. How will I ever?" Then your certification was a waste of money because it's not something that you gain or lose. It's something that you remember, and that was always a part of you, very much like I think love is. Only unfortunately, we tend to only see it when it is reflected back to us through another person, which is often not done or done poorly. And then we equate love and our value or receiving of it with just how poorly this person is even capable of it. Which is all of these other metrics to measure yourself. How weird. Um, how superfluous, really. Uh, and that slows the night down. That's not aerodynamic and swords cut. Swords cut. Um, and that also may come with some fear because of that. Um, because swords cut, because swords are a sharp object, and because it rules the mind, the things that we are afraid of or the things that we would rather not deal with. But there is unity in understanding both sides of the blade. um, there is there's honor and respect in understanding both sides of the blade, uh, and being able to understand its usefulness, uh, and the ways in which it moves because of that. Same applies to you. Understand both sides of yourself. Understand the hilt at the center. Understand that this and its alignment is what helps you move more fluidly through the world rather than crashing like a wave. You sweep like the shore. Um, Three of Wands is a beautiful creative card. Again, inverted. I feel like that has much more to do with the ways in which we see how we've grown in ourselves rather than in the things that we've created. Um, a lot's going on out here. It's very easy to get lost in having or doing. Um, but there's a lot of people not necessarily doing it for the right reasons, or leading others astray because of their own need for followers or what have you. Um, and also don't get caught up with the tangibility of it all. You can create a very tangible heaven in your mind and in your heart that is just as tangibly held in the real world, and other worlds, purely through spirit and purely through energy and purely through the eyes. Even these are the ways in which I think that that if you really understand energy, then you don't need somebody to tell you the symbols, and you don't need touch. You don't need physicality. Um, Too often, I think, are these colonized healers very hands-on, um, and very intrusive with that, or very frustrated with the inability to be able to. And I understand, but I also think, in a very mundane way, the ways in which that you can tell somebody's looking at you from across the room. It is a kinesthetic sense, and when you're aware of that, you can use it as a conduit for energy as well. This is something that I love to practice, and why I've been able to be the whore of Babylon without any crazy, hard to hear claims or hard to deal claims, um, because you can project your interests, you can project your wantonness, you can project anything really, the good and the bad, the longing or the wanting or the hate or the love. Um, Without a touch, with so much as a gaze, um, with so much as a thought, really, uh, because the air is electric, it holds on to that charge, and it absolutely does carry. These are these are important factors. This will help lead us in the ways in which we even want to be received, and the ways in which that we will find ourselves being received, because we are not so desperate or wanting for it, because we simply are, and it simply calls, because we simply am, and it beckons. um, this is the vision of the artist. Even if you have not created, it's the vision that propels those things. Have faith in that vision, have trust in that vision, have trust in that inner world. And when you feel your inner world is on its head or upside down, then we know that there are some metrics here and some angles here that do not align. So we go back to center. We go back to center in stripping ourselves of everything else. The hangman is the bottom of the deck. And the nine of cups also is the following card of this, like little layout, right? The hangman bottom of the deck, like general zeitgeist, absolutely. With all of that being said, is like fasting. Um, is very literally upside down and in the woods. It's stripping ourselves of these preconceived notions, of programmings, of ideas, of circles, and we're seeing that very much within relations, or within corporations buying other corporations, or friend circles, dissolving or branching or what have you. Um, the hanged man is finding out who they are outside of all of that. Without all of that, who are you naked? Who are you bare? And this is a reoccurring theme when it comes to conjuring or spirits or ritual work. What do I wear? How do I look? How do I show up? How do I respect? Da, 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 da. You respect with your heart, and you show up honest. And that don't look like nothing. That don't look like your Sunday best. The spirits don't give a fuck about that shit. Um, but we can find better medicine to put out into the world than just our rage. Um, the rage isn't the projection that we want. Um, but there's a reason for it, and that is what you have to follow. Follow the rage to the why, and the why will lead you to the how. That's how our cycle. That's how our chakras cycle. Even, this one will lead to this one, and it will cycle back to find itself jumping toward the next. It's heat. It's these cyclical churnings. And so this is the time to do that for yourself now. Um, and that is not, oh my gosh, that is not taking some colonizer led yoga thing about the 7 chakras, because there's enough research out there to tell you that that is not the way to go. There are more than 7. When you only learn the bare minimum, you do not know the function of the mechanism. That it's you might as well just not read the manual at all and chuck it under your bed. The Hanged Man has clear skies and peace, and I genuinely feel like for as much as fear might cause us to hoard, you will only find like true holding when you find yourself without, or when you understand what it must look or feel like to be without, and to not need it, and to not need amplifiers, I suppose, or resonators, even to know that you are in fact this radiating, resonating thing in and of yourself. That is in fact what we need, so that the land and its spirits can follow that, rather than our rage calling us in to do and bid by betrayal in their right. Which is also 100% why I even opened it up with the song that I did. It's a Chuck Tough friendship song. um, and the loneliness is a friend to me. Betrayal is also very much a visceral reality of this land, and a visceral reality of this body. And so we we go into those waters and we speak to it and we listen and we allow it to communicate in a more rightly identified relationship, ultimately, and that becomes illuminating. Interesting. There were stars like this in the building of this, in the ceiling of this government building. um 2 less, I believe, which is interesting because that may be the 2 less that they wanted you to see, to really collaborate with energy, and collaborate with yourself. This 3 of Wands is creative. You don't necessarily need somebody else to collaborate. You ultimately need to collaborate here and here, and that is what allows you to collaborate with other people more. It's an expansive thing. This is the ways in which love grows, in a creative way. If you're more interested in the relationship aspect of it, then watch my geometry of relationships videos, because that essentially takes the same concept and applies it to relationships, polyamory, polygamy, geometry. But here we're looking at the self. So hangman it out, because it is a creative, meditative state, where you may feel lack, perhaps requires a perspective shift. And I equate, this is a very mundane example, but I equate it with like vegetarianism. People often see it and think like, oh, you can't do all of these things. When in reality, it's an opportunity to be creative with cooking, an opportunity to be creative with color, an opportunity to be creative with nutrients, an opportunity to be creative with the environment. and with your body even, and with the conversation you're having with it. Um, but people don't like the idea of being told no, or that they can't, and that comes from a very ingrained colonizer need for more and entitlement to mine. Um, and that is because we're so disembodied with this as mine, with me as mine, with this body and identity as a part of me, because we're so separated from our heart through heartbreak and through betrayal and through grief. Um, Rather than sacrifice, which is often, unfortunately, the response to this card, um, and unfortunately, is often sacrifice of something else, as if that's supposed to heal you. Um, Sacrifice something for you. Shed a tear on cemetery grounds, uh, shed menstrual blood on the grass in your backyard, on plants, on haunted lands, so that our own embodied personal sacrifice, not the sacrifice of something else, uh, can begin to balance out exactly that. How many other things have been sacrificed for some other fucking cause? Let's not perpetuate that. And that is an integral and introspective battle. When the mind and the heart is a battlefield, this I do know very well. That is, in fact, what my name means, along with orphan through religious conquest. Um, there's no like one quick fix for this, and that's unfortunately like not anybody's jam. Um, People would much rather, again, escape than liberate. That's what the medical system is based on, really. Uh, that's what the system is based on, but that is very much part of the medical system as well. You know, here's this pill, escape from your symptoms, but not the cause of them. Uh, let's not liberate the body from this pain. Let's just mask it and drown it out. And that's very much what the spiritual community does a lot as well, with this like only the good ones, love and light kind of thing. Um, but this is very much like your mind versus your body. Um, your mind versus the mind versus the body. You know, collective intelligence versus the earth. We see that in very literal ways. So even if that statement doesn't resonate with you, the sentiment is pervasive, and is a very piercing thing. So we must find stability and alignment. Find a breath at all. Find a breath and let it lead you to some other conclusion. Take it down the rabbit hole to find out what, where, why, and how. Um, and that exists in just acknowledging how your heart is feeling now. Even when you're breathing, where did you feel it? You know, what happens to the breath in these moments? And then go back to the nose and allow your sensory cortex and all the mucosa and neurological tissue in your nose to help you discern this information and discern what is of you and what is not, and what is good for the soil and the bones and growth, and what is a parasite in the soil eating away at growth, convincing you that it's your fault. uh Also hard, also tough, but um but it is a very personal thing. So don't lose hope in yourself. um be very patient with yourself. Don't lose compassion for yourself. um First and foremost, it's entirely too much to ask you to have compassion for anything outside of you when you cannot have it for yourself in this moment. And that can also lead to frustration. And again, this cycle of like something's wrong with me. No, we're asking something that cannot be provided, does not have the circumstances to provide. So let's adjust and make those circumstances more plausible. Let's set the right tone, set the right frequency, set the right environment for it. And the same ways that even in the most mundane context, people suggest, setting your desk and your workspace in such a way, starting your morning in such a way so that you feel, ready for it. Ritualize these things, romanticize these things so that you feel prepared to deal with your own darkness. Okay. Oh, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. I am gonna leave it there because I can't give you one answer to so much darkness, or to so much confusion. Um, so take what resonates and leave what doesn't, and use this as a starting point to continue to do your own research and investigation within yourself. And if you would like to learn more, then that's exactly what I'm here for. Um, to be a guide, but not a quick fix or answer at all. Although you can totally do yes or no in tarot. I just have seen it done enough to know that it's risky business as far as your own comforts and sensibility goes. But with that, um, I will leave you with that. If you would like to check out more about breath work in relation to this, my field guide to breathing, qualities of power, and powers of quality, is still only $1. So buy into the paradigm shift. You will only be endlessly grounded and by proxy rewarded in your grounding for it. Um, and I think in times of cognitive warfare and an incredible amount of gaslighting and propaganda, um, all the more reason to get very clear about what thoughts are yours and what are not, what sensations um, are building your reality, and are they of your own creation, or are they an influence? And with that, uh, I leave you. Ahai, noate. Uh, good healing, good medicine to you all. Party on. Uh, and thank you for being here and for taking some time. Sorry, I'm like collecting all of like my thoughts now again. Coming back to all of it. We expanded quite a bit. And that will continue to expand, but now that I'm like back here, it's weird. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I appreciate you very much. Thank you. I will see you next time. Party on.